Should you cam your daily? A question that has plagued man since the dawn of the small block 70 years ago. Look, let's be real here. If you're the type of person that already clicked on this video, you probably don't make the most responsible decisions when it comes to vehicles or most anything else in life, and that's okay. You're in the right place. If you wanted a car to do simply what it was meant to do, which is get from point A to point B, you'd probably be buying a Honda Fit, but that's not you. You understand that your vehicle is an extension of your personality, or that other thing that begins with a P. And if I'm being honest here, driving a cam vehicle every day is a lot like dating a stripper. They're a little bit erratic, they consume most of your money and emotional energy, and your parents will probably think you're an idiot for doing it. But at the end of the day, they sure are fun. Now look, I could make this entire video one big sales pitch for my Texas Speed BFD cam, but look, I understand that many of you do not drive an LS or Gen 3 Hemi, and those are the only engines that we make that cam for. But if you want one, there's the link. I think what we need to do is we need to weigh the risk versus reward of camming your daily. Let's go. Now, a great way to assess the risk versus reward of anything is by using a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a really good tool to use when you got to figure out if a decision is fucking terrible or not. We're going to use it here today so I can actually say that I used one thing that I went to college for. Let's begin. First up with strengths, we're going to jump for the low-hanging fruit and the obvious. Power. Mega powers, yeah! Anytime you throw a huge cam in a car, you're gonna make a bunch of power, right? That's pretty obvious. We don't need to dive too deep into that one. Let's be real here. You throw a cam in a car because it sounds sick as f***. We don't need to bullshit each other here. Let's move on. Assertion of dominance. You see, pulling up to a car meet is a lot like stepping into your first day in prison. And the last thing you want is to be holding the inside of somebody's pocket as they parade you through the yard, auctioning you off for a carton of cigarettes. You go to the highest bidder, motherfucker. When you're chopping heavy, it lets everybody know you mean business. Any gas station you pull up to, any stoplight, even your kid's school in the pickup line. Let's move on.
Come here, get the f*** out of here.
When you cam your car, it instantaneously makes it feel like a race car. And by default, that makes you a race car driver. The best part about being a race car driver is that you get to legally tell that to chicks at the bar. Or dudes, if you're into that sort of thing. Now, the last and final strength we'll get into here in this video is righteousness. You know, throwing a cam in your daily is something of a religious experience because every single cold start makes you feel like God when you fire up that HAWG at 5, 6 in the morning to go to work. So now that we've gone through the strengths, let's take a look at some of the weaknesses. So yeah, sure, anytime you throw a huge cam in a vehicle, you're likely to get worse fuel economy. But with that comes opportunity. With worse fuel economy means you gotta stop at more gas stations, which in turn means you get to assert dominance. If so facto, there are no weaknesses. So with that out of the way, I think we can move to opportunities. Now the first opportunity, winning.
Talking blood, man.
The next opportunity is getting attention from chicks. Sup?
Don't talk to me, loser.
The next and very obvious opportunity is seat time. When you have a cammed daily, every single stoplight becomes an opportunity to test your reaction time against fellow roadgoers.
Want to go?
Another opportunity with having a gigantic cam is that it's an icebreaker. You see, even if your people skills are trash, that doesn't matter because when people hear you chopping away, you're gonna make new friends, whether you want them or not. Mostly dudes. So I think that's a pretty stout opportunities list. Now let's go over to threats. The first and gnarliest threat, overload. The worst part about all the dudes that are gonna flock to your car is that it makes it less likely for chicks to wanna even come talk to you, as if they did anyway in the first place. The next and very obvious threat is cops. When you have a very rowdy ass sounding car, you're likely to get pulled over. Cool thing is, when it's got a gigantic cam, you're likely to get pulled over and they're gonna wanna talk about what you done to your car.
750 double pumper, Edelbrock intakes.
And then you got cop friends, which is always a good thing. Now, quite possibly the biggest threat to having a really nasty, rowdy sounding vehicle is, well, the Karens in your HOA. If you're like me and you live in an apartment with shared parking, Or let's say you live in a really nice, quiet neighborhood, the HOA may have a problem with your godlike 6 a.m. startups. But, you see, when they put you on blast at your HOA meeting, what they're doing is they're putting you on a pedestal, upon which you get to flex on all the other dudes in your neighborhood for having stock-ass cars.
That's why no one will remember your name.
Which in turn means you get to assert dominance once again. Now, our final threat is the EPA. If you find yourself living in a near-communist nation state, they're not going to be too happy with you throwing a gigantic bump stick into your vehicle. But when you have to deal with the EPA and smog, you in turn get the opportunity to support small businesses. In conclusion, it would appear that camming your daily weighs much more heavily on the side of positives than it does negative. Look, each year the average American spends about 60.2 minutes behind the wheel on their daily commute. If you live in a city like Los Angeles or New York City, that average commute can be up to 90 minutes a day. If you're doing the math on that, that's 371 hours or 15 and a half days that you're spending behind the wheel every single year. Now look, you could spend that time mindlessly suffering the daily commute to the job that you hate, letting your car drive you there like some androgynous blob from the movie Demolition Man, or if you're a bit younger, Wall-E. Or you could sit in that same bumper-to-bumper traffic, sounding like Dale Sr. in his '85 Monte Aero coupe, feeling like a goddamn American hero. Sure, you might lose a little bit of gas mileage and civility, but you aren't some ordinary civilian, are you? You were built for speed. And so was that V8 that's wedged in between your engine bay. Look, let's face it, if you're like a majority of people in this country, you probably don't like your job very much. If you're gonna be spending 8 to 10 hours a day dealing with shitty customers, an asshole boss, or tiptoeing through your day trying to avoid an HR violation like Neo in The Matrix, you might as well make your daily commute your little slice of heaven for the day. And lastly, this may be your final opportunity to experience daily chop. If I'm being real here, we're probably in the very last generation where they're gonna allow hog-ass cam V8s to roam wild on the streets. And if the people at the EPA and the World Economic Forum have their way, we may lose combustion engines altogether. So look, life is short, tomorrow's promised to no man. So cam your daily and get the big stick.
Ooh.